Thanks for tuning into the Conscious Hour, and let's talk about the peace agreement, the settlement. So the Palestinians can live freely, and Israel can basically back off. And hey, there's Jared Kushner, and he wants to rebuild the whole coastline. So maybe they're going to do something for the Palestinians. My personal opinion is they'll do nothing, but listen to this discussion. It's very important because what you're being told in the Western media has nothing to do with reality. Hamas is not the problem, never has been.
What's happening here, the significance of what we saw yesterday in this announcement in Gaza.
So, Jeremy, the Hamas government actually announced even well before the ceasefire, within a couple of months after October of 2023, that they didn't want to be part of ruling Gaza any longer. So the obstacle has not been Hamas in this at all. But what instead we've seen happen is the same thing that we saw happen in the 90s, the same thing that we saw happen in the year 2000, which is that the goalpost is constantly changing. So as you recall, we're now today exactly 10 months since, or 9 months, excuse me, since the signing of this agreement. And 9 months ago, when this agreement was signed, as you already mentioned in your intro, there was nothing there mentioned about all of the issues that the Israelis have now placed on the table. And so what we're seeing instead is that rather than this group, the Board of Peace, pushing through and making sure that Palestinians are allowed to survive, especially after 2.5 years of genocide, that instead they're putting more and more and more conditions on Palestinians to be able to survive, with the aim of attempting to squeeze Hamas. And the form that this is taking is primarily through humanitarian issues. They've effectively said to the government that we're not going to allow in any major humanitarian supplies. We're not going to allow the reconstruction of hospitals. We're not going to allow the reconstruction of schools. We're not going to allow in certain medicines. We're not going to allow in medical equipment. We're not going to allow in food in any major quantity, or clean water, or even reconstruction equipment. None of that stuff is going to be allowed in until you meet our demands. And what's astonishing in all of this is that you'll recall back in January of this year that Trump himself said that we had already entered into phase 2 and that the Israelis should be abiding by this agreement. And here we see that they are not. So once again, what we're seeing is that instead of Israel being the one that calls the shots, we have this Board of Peace calling the shots on Israel's behalf. They're doing the bidding on Israel's behalf, and rather than putting the brakes on Israel and saying to Israel, enough is enough, and we have to keep moving forward, they're instead moving along with this. And so with yesterday's announcement, the aim was effectively to say, if you think that we're the problem, we're not the problem. Let this be handed over to NCAG. Let this be handed over to another body. Let them be the one that's doing the ruling. And you're still going to see that the same thing is going to happen. And indeed, Mladenov yesterday on X, on Twitter, said that, oh, this is a great move, but this isn't enough to be able to meet the next phase and to be able to go ahead and move forward. So again, the whole thing is that they want to see a surrender agreement. That's all that they're looking for, is a surrender agreement with the ability of Israel to continually go in and continue to bomb Palestinians. We've seen over 1,000 Palestinians killed just over the course of the past 9 months without a single Israeli being killed, without even a single anything being shot in Israel's direction. That's definitely not ceasefire. They're just looking for a surrender agreement.
Yeah, and Diana, my colleague Jawa Ahmad and I recently did a story, and we interviewed you for this. We obtained the latest drafts. There's been this exchange of drafts on a framework that is supposedly aimed at moving forward to the next phase. And one of the documents is Nikolai Mladenov, for all practical purposes, the head of the Board of Peace on these matters, his draft to the Palestinian side, and also the Palestinian draft. And if you were to sort of drill down and look at what is at the center of this, it's that Mladenov has framed the entire thing as though the October agreement wasn't signed, as though the Palestinians had made sweeping concessions and effectively surrendered, and that now Hamas is going back on it because they're not engaging in a public ritual to like hand over Kalashnikovs and to do it as a kind of surrender routine. And, you know, I feel like I'm losing my mind sometimes because I keep repeating this. Again, the Palestinian resistance took a position. This is very important for people to understand. When Hamas and Islamic Jihad and other factions that were engaged in the armed struggle against Israel post October 7th signed that agreement in October, what they said so clearly was, we do not represent the entirety of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people believe in a democratic process. As the combatants in this war, as those who are holding captives, Israeli captives, we can negotiate on a limited number of issues, including the exchange of captives, the official declaration of the end of combat, the withdrawal of Israeli forces, and the providing or the resumption of deliveries of life essentials that are often referred to as humanitarian aid, although they're actually life essentials. They shouldn't be called aid. And that's it. And they said on all these other issues that Donald Trump talks about in his 20-point plan, we need to consult with all Palestinian factions and political parties. I want people to keep that in mind. So what Nikolai Mladenov and this so-called Board of Peace have done is they have said, you made all these agreements. You said you were going to disarm all Palestinians. You said you were going to allow the Israeli forces to remain occupying huge swaths of Gaza until you've essentially surrendered. In order for us to actually guarantee that any of these terms that were mentioned in October are going to be committed to, you now have to abide by this new set of demands. And it's, you know, by acting as though it's like Hamas disarming, it sounds like it's like some foreign militia that has come into Gaza and it's like it's ISIS or something. We need to just get rid of these people and then everything is going to be okay. The reality is it's not even about Hamas. What Israel wants is for Palestinians not to be able to defend themselves against what Israel openly says it's going to do, which is to continue this war. So what I want to ask you, Diana, is how...
So what they're really doing is they want to eradicate all of the Palestinians. They're now building, I'll call them concentration camps. They're building these little buildings and they're going to stuff all the Palestinians in there and they get to live in a caged society. But you have to reflect on something. If you look at Israel and what Israel had done to the Palestinians over time is they went into different areas in Israel and made these compounds, basically put fences around them to keep literally, I'll call it the cattle in. We don't want these Palestinians to roam around. They're dangerous. No, they want to eradicate them. And their vision and their mission is to get rid of all of them. They aren't even bringing in humanitarian trucks on a daily basis. They should be feeding them. 600 trucks a day should be flowing in it. They are not flowing in there. The people are starving to death. They're still being killed. And the bottom line is, on December 16th, 2025, Francesca Albanese released her numbers for the amount of people that were murdered, mass murdered, slaughtered, killed, whatever word you want to put it. Palestinians, 680,000. They want to get rid of all of them so they can come in with the Board of Peace with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff as the negotiators and build a Viva Las Vegas from Egypt all the way up through Lebanon into Syria. That's what this gangster capitalism is about. So we, the people, need to speak out, and you need to pick up your phone if you're in the United States and tell them to shut this down. The Palestinians need to be set free. The food needs to fly in there, and they need to have a protective military, UN, whatever, come in and protect them from any further eradication by Israel or the United States, because we're supplying the bombs and the weapons. This is the Conscious Hour, folks. You have a chance to speak out. You have a chance to make a difference. Do yourself a favor. Pick up the phone and call your congressional representatives and tell them Palestine needs to be free. Israel needs to move out of there. It's not their land. This is the Conscious Hour. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like and share button, and please leave your comments and let me know you shared it. We need to get the word out, folks, because these people aren't going to stop, ever. Thanks for tuning in.